welcome Katie Law.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to start by saying that actually I am not a trend forecaster. I'm a design writer and a journalist. And if I tell you that in preparation for this talk, I don't know, I've got it, are the pictures coming up, Calypso? Okay. Sorry, I've got some pictures here to show you. But what I did was, just as a kind of off the bat, I just put in home trends 2015, and instantly I came up with this. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. I don't have a magic ball. I don't think anyone else does either, that I can look into that's going to help me predict what's going to be hot or not for the next season. Yesterday, I gave a talk here, and I talked about how you, mainly the designers at Pulse, and to some extent the retailers, but really the designers are the people who set the trends, because it's your designs that people come and have a look at that inspire both the buyers and, of course, the journalists. But obviously, I'm out and about on the prowl, and I do get a pretty good idea of what the big looks are likely to be. And what helps hugely, actually, is walking around this show. And it may surprise you to hear this, but you really, really are the trendsetters. It's your fresh ideas and designs that really power the trends in the big stores for the seasons ahead. When I walked around the show on Sunday, I was judging the best new living product, and a couple of people asked me not to take photographs of their stands. I was actually doing it as a kind of aide-memoire to help me, you know, both with my ideas for pieces, but also for these talks. And I really did sympathise, because I'm sure some of you will have had experience of having your own designs copied or adapted, seeing them somewhere maybe out on the high street a few seasons hence, you know, just altered a little bit and put onto cheap bed linen, and I think that must be really, really frustrating. When I talked yesterday about maximising your publicity exposure by harnessing specific colours and seasonal trends to fit products, I tried to encourage you how to create a topical story. For example, you might not have something yourself that would fit into the very popular geo trend or a pastel theme, but you might be able to work within monochrome, modern Scandi, or industrial, which are some of the really big trends at the moment. In this respect, I think trends are a means to an end. That isn't to say that you should be cravenly attaching yourself to them. Ideally, you just want to be slightly ahead of the curve, to feel as if you're driving a zeitgeist forward, which is much easier said than done. And how you achieve that, or not, I think, is a reflection of your own creative abilities, confidence, and talent. One of the most important parts of my job at the Evening Standard is to identify trends in everything, not just interiors, but absolutely everywhere, and write about them in, I hope, a slightly sort of irreverent and entertaining way. The rule at work is that 3 of something makes a trend. It's an absolutely golden rule. If 2 of something comes my way, I will desperately seek out a 3rd, and hey presto, I've got a trend. Recent examples of this that I've written about, and not just me, but other people, are green juices, juice bars, botanical gins, artisan microbreweries, NutriBullets, cronuts, that was a cross between a donut and a croissant, flavoured macarons, braided hair bars, dip dye hair products, blue hair, furniture embedded with wireless charging technology, rammed earth surfaces, and waterproof tablets. The list, frankly, is endless. And of course, many of these trends are such fun to write about in the moment, but they whisk by so fast that they barely get noticed before they've gone again. But it's always interesting to see what catches on and why. And it's also important to be able to draw the line between a popular trend versus what's fast becoming a tired old has-been. I think journalists can be very cruel in this respect. You know, we all have heard about the restaurant that's so of the moment, you can't get in, everyone's trying to get a table, and then the next minute, it's sort of gone, it's out, it's closed down. I think interiors trends have much more staying power, though, and I don't think the journalists who write about interiors are quite as harsh as some of the others. But I am surprised at how things carry on and on and on. I would never have thought that, say, something like Union Jack bunting could have just gone on for years and years and years. And I expect we're going to get a revival of it quite soon as a sort of, another new trend. Coming back to Pulse, firstly, as I said yesterday, it's been an immense pleasure to see such a lot of clean, uncluttered design, really unusual colour palettes and exciting combinations of pattern and colour. There are lots of variations on the perennially popular monochrome theme, which personally I absolutely love. These are pared back combinations of black, grey, white, cream. They're really timeless and modern. We've got here the Organic Company. They've got beautiful towels and also Lollipop's lovely grid-wrap tableware, which actually I awarded the best new product, the best product in living to. And then we also have Page Cartledge and Lapuan Kankurit Oi, who are both here with some really gorgeous designs. If you haven't checked them out, I'd really encourage you to do so. Monochrome graphics have also been very well adapted here for the emerging, what I'm calling the apothecary / men's grooming trend. I spotted some absolutely fabulous packaging for Men's Society, Wild and Wolf. Oh, no, that's not Wild. That's not Wild and Wolf. That's Design and Quality. That was another one. On the left-hand side, actually, there's also a really lovely product, which is a map here, which shows you by physical size the biggest land masses, country by country. And that really big one right in the corner is actually Russia, with China next to it. It's really interesting. You should definitely go and have a look at that. And then just behind the woman are all these gorgeous apothecary products. I do predict that really simple, attractively branded men's grooming products are going to be one of the next big things, next big trends, and we'll see a lot more of them. Even if my own publication, ES Magazine, has predicted, and this was the illustration that went with it, that the Shoreditch hipster is dead. But actually, I do think that there's a whole future ahead for all kinds of men's grooming, even if it doesn't involve a beard. An example of how this is translated into the high street, this is an image from the lookbook from Dunelm Mill, which is, you perhaps know it, it's Leicester-based department store. It has over 100 branches nationwide. And it's actually, I have to say, I think done a really good job here in capturing the essence of what the trend is all about. One of the things I talked about yesterday was how to get the lifestyle photography as well as the cutout photography harnessed to your product to really be able to maximize your publicity. If somebody sends in a picture like that, you know, as a journalist, you just think, yum, I want to use that. It looks fabulous. And it gives a message. Another part of my job also involves talking to the buyers and heads of design at some of the big department stores. And I always ask them where they get their inspiration from. I ask them what they think the next big trends are going to be and how they're going to respond with their new collections. It's always fascinating. Almost everyone I speak to mentions fashion shows and trade shows like this one at the top of the list. They will also usually mention their travelling, food, pop-ups, vintage fairs, whatever else it is they happen to like. And obviously it depends whether they're designing furniture or ceramics and so on. This autumn, John Lewis, which has kindly given me access to its imagery and trend forecasts, has predicted no fewer than 30 trends within what it calls consumer mindsets. It's a really fascinating read, even if some of the predicted trends strike me as, I wouldn't say daft exactly, but questionable. Is green really the new black? Having said that, indulgence, which is what they're calling this very luxurious look, is, I think, a seductive and strong look, and it marks a big change away from all the ubiquitous monochromes, greys, the Scandi woods, the artisans, the lofts, the industrial timbers, that whole look. It's not to say that these are dead. I'm just really interested to see that this very, very luxurious look is coming back in, and of all places at John Lewis. Marks and Spencer's, a few days later, sent me this. Again, they have been very, very generous in sharing their imagery. And so there's clearly something going on. I think it's very, very interesting that they were quite unaware, so they said to me, of what the other one had done, but it suggests that we're going to see a lot of gold, we're going to see opulent fabrics, dark colours, all of these, black tables and so on, all coming back. Clearly, as well, we have got metals and metallic finishes everywhere. As Calypso said just now, silver turns to gold, turns to copper, turns to burnished pewter, turns back to silver, and round we go. It continues to be very, very strong, and I have to say copper is certainly no exception. Copper orange and copper blush, this is a page from Dulux, which is actually, of course, it's not really got anything to do with copper at all. It's basically pink. So pink works its way into blush, which has gone into fashion, which has gone into interiors. And I think that, again, we will see a lot more of these colours, this sort of palette range coming in. And again, back to Dunelm Mill for spring, summer 2015, you can see exactly how they've incorporated elements. At this point, it's kind of moving into orange, but there's quite a lot of metal in that, into what it's calling its global luxury collection. Another trend I predict is going to be big. There's a good example here at Pulse, Carola van Dijk's lovely one-off patchwork animal pieces. She uses plaids and herringbones and tweeds and creates these really nice embroidered pieces. Tweed, check, plaids, overtones of countryside and rusticity. Now this is the one of the collections from Tesco Home for autumn-winter 2015. They're calling it Amber. They've got lots of, well, as you can see, spectacle animals, plain wood, red and beige. And also I managed to find out from Next Home, which is incredibly big and influential, I think. They didn't have any pictures, but they have one called Wild Meadow, and they say it's an ochre-based story featuring checks, woven materials, leather wing-back armchairs, wooden and dark pewter accessories. It's a very country and cosy story with lots of animal motifs on cushions, chunky knitted throws, and ceramics used in lighting. Marks and Spencer's has brought in the British element, which is always a good one to use, I think, in a trend. And it's also, and this is, I think, very clever, it's included mention of using what it's calling an iconic the Yorkshire-based mill, Moon's Mill, as part of its story. When I talked yesterday about using your story to be part of the trend, this is exactly the sort of thing I meant. You know, for example, here they're actually selling a sofa and a blanket and actually a table. But what they're also telling you is, here is a mill with a history. So my advice, as I said yesterday, was if you've got a story, for goodness sake, use it. I started at the kitchen table. We bought an old disused mill. I bought an old carpentry shop. Whatever it is, use that as part of your story. Of course, animals are a perennial trend, and we seem to move from safari to tropical to woodland to domestic creatures and back again with absolute ease. A couple of years ago, it was deer. Deer were everywhere. Then came deer heads. Then just deer antlers. Oh dear. Seasonally appropriate, yes, indeed, for winter and Christmas. They really did seem to pop up everywhere on bunting, cushions, fairy lights, napkins, stationery, wallpaper. I'm sorry if I sound a bit fed up with it, but, you know, there just comes a moment, like the Union Jack, it's like, okay, we get it, let's move on. So there are lots of examples at the show today. I took this is Sam Wilson, who is at Launchpad. There are a lot of hares around, so forgive me if there's anyone else here who's also got hares, and I didn't get a picture of them, but there's some really gorgeous examples here, lovely colour palette, and these lino cut printed fabrics, ceramics, and paper in muted colours. And interestingly, there are also foxes. And here, for example, this is from the Sainsbury's summer lookbook. And this is just an example of how these will translate. And you see here are mugs, they're £2.50 each. I mean, it really is quite incredible, the speed with which things will jump from, as it were, Pulse to Sainsbury's or whatever. My personal fave as well, which is, I suppose technically it's a bird rather than an animal, is a pink flamingo, just to brighten things up. And they feed very naturally into a tropical trend. And there's obviously a big tropical trend going on, big for summer. I think it will be sort of adapted, and I think it will go on a bit. But at the moment, it's flamingos and pineapples on the one hand, which is kind of fun for summer. But also, and there's a lot of it here today, kith and kin and so on, doing gorgeous sort of lush tropical foliage. And I think that's also going to be very big. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And then moving on, another trend. I think, and again, I've seen a lot here today, graphics, typography, lettering, handwritten messages, and that seems to be going across stationery, cushions, ceramics, especially in Launchpad. There's lots of really lovely fresh things going on there. And so I do actually predict that in the high street we'll see a lot of it, and it really seems to keep evolving. The typography elements seem to tie in very nicely with the kind of wider industrial trend. And you can see here, again, this is Dunelm Mill, has incorporated a lot of the things that I've been talking about. So there's a bit of the plaid and leather and a bit of the industrial typography. And there's probably a bit of metal in there somewhere, I can't see it, but it just pulls it all together quite nicely. Really, I could carry on and on and on talking about trends and micro-trends. I haven't really mentioned botanicals, geo, and the rest. There is one simple message I'd like to put across to you, and I'd like you to come away with, and it's simply this: do not be swayed by what others perceive to be trends. Really, you are the trendsetters, and your designs here today are going to be tomorrow's high street trends, and that really, really does hold true. I think you absolutely have to stay true to your own creative instincts and don't follow the crowd. You're the ones bobbing up to the top and leading the way, and I hope that continues. And thank you very much.